Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on this webinar, 5 Tips for Pitching to National Publications. We're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so for our agenda, this is what we will cover. We will be talking about who I am and what I do, why gaining national exposure is important for your brand, an overview of the 5 tips to pitching, and how you can stay connected to me. Who I am and what I do. I am Patrice Tart, the Dream Big Writing Coach. So I started my blogging journey in 2013, and I just recently celebrated my 3-year, what I like to call, blogiversary. I am a #1 best-selling author. I'm a national blogger for the Huffington Post, Success, Black Enterprise, and Madame Noir, and I've written for many more, including a magazine. I have been featured in over 16 publications, and that also includes the publications that I've written for. I've covered the red carpet for major networks, and recently I just actually got invited to a red carpet event for Starz Network, so that's pretty cool. I've also received invitations to exclusive events such as the White House with the First Lady Michelle Obama for her Let's Move initiative. It was myself and about 149 other bloggers. And last but not least, I coach authors, bloggers, columnists, entrepreneurs, and speakers on how to gain more knowledge on writing, pitching, and publishing, as well as global exposure. Here is just a few quotes from some of the former clients that I've worked with and how they have been excited and happy to work with me and their experience. And one I was able to get featured on BET.com, the other one in InStyle Beauty. From the White House to the red carpet and more. So here are pictures that I wanted to share with you all that show my time at the White House with the First Lady. And then on the red carpet covering a award show. And then I was invited also to Google, their headquarters in D.C. We actually had dinner there, and it was a reception. It was awesome. It was actually for a publisher's event for bloggers like myself. And then the last picture just shows me with a lot of celebrities that I was able to interview while I did my red carpet event. So very exciting, and there's so much opportunity, being in this field as a writer. All right, so let's jump right into the importance of national exposure. So here are some of the things that being featured or quoted in national publications can do for you and your brand. Now, the credibility that you receive from being featured as an expert or even being a contributor like myself is amazing. There's so many different ways that you can leverage it, and it also leads to more clientele, which in turn gets you what? More money. And so, I like to think of national exposure as being on a global level too, because no matter, where you are, as long as a person can access the internet, they can jump right on, no matter what country they're in, if they have internet access, and be able to see who you are and what you do when you're a featured expert in a national publication. Also, this is good social proof. It shows that you are authentic and that you not only just talk the talk, but you walk the walk, meaning that, if you're an expert in the field, you have the credentials to back you up, in addition to, the credibility that you can leverage from being featured. And then you also instantly stand out among your peers. So I don't know about you, but for me, when I'm looking to hire someone or work with someone or even partner with a person, I like to look at their website and, of course, go to their About Me page and look at their bio. But anytime that I see featured in or having contributed to, X, Y, and Z in their top, national media publications, that makes them stand out to the person right besides them who may have the same, background and expertise, but they haven't been featured in various publications. All right, so let's jump into our top 5 pitch tips. All right, so pitch tip number 1, you must know your subject matter well. So basically this is saying that if you are an expert in a certain industry, you are very well versed in that subject matter. And no matter what it is, you can speak, to it thoroughly and you understand it. Okay? Because anytime that you're featured and you're an expert, people are going to look to you. That makes you an authority in your field and industry. So it's very important not to just say, okay, well, I have X, Y, and Z credentials in terms of certifications or degrees, but that you are well versed and you can speak to exactly what you do and who you are. Pitch tip number 2, you want to gain a thorough understanding of what the publication is looking for. So basically what this means is you'll have to do a lot of research. If you can sit back right now and think of your top 3 publications that you would like to be featured in as a featured expert. Okay, so just take a second to think about that. You want to make sure that before you even think about pitching them to be featured, that your content in which you're going to discuss is something that they even cover, that they're interested in covering, and that their readers are going to enjoy. So just make sure to keep that in mind. And it's easy to do research nowadays by just going to the site, taking a look at, their content and some of the things that have been covered before. Okay, so it's really not that hard. If you're a researcher like myself, it could be a little bit easier. Some people don't like to research, but it's not really hard to just, get an idea and an understanding. And once you have that understanding of what they're looking for, then you can start to say, okay, well, where do I fit into this equation? Pitch tip number 3, you want to understand what topics the audience is most interested in. Now, the best way to understand this is to look at the articles that have received the highest views or ratings. And, if there are comments that are left on the actual articles, take a look at the comments and see how well engaged the audience was. So if you see an article that doesn't have much commentary from the audience, from the viewers, or it has negative, commentary, which happens sometimes, or if it's even mixed reviews, take a look at all of that, because that is something to consider. Because guess what? The audience, the target market, is the client or customer, per se, of that particular blog, of that site. Even if they're not paying for the content, without their viewers, that blog or national top publication is absolutely nothing if they don't have readers. So you want to make sure that the topic that you're considering pitching yourself for or to is going to be relevant to that particular publication. Pitch tip number 4, ask yourself this question. Do you want to be featured or quoted, or do you want to be a contributor? Now, unless you are a writer like myself and have a strong passion for writing, I do not suggest, pitching to become a contributor. Why? Because writing takes a lot of effort, and unless you love it, you're going to hate it when it comes to actually writing articles and having to do research and all of that good stuff. But if you're wanting to be featured as an expert or quoted as an expert, well, that's easy breezy in terms of not having to put as much work into it, because you don't actually have to, research and then write the articles and all of that good stuff. The actual writer would be doing that. The person that you would be pitching to would be, actually drafting the article and featuring you in it as an expert. and it would be based off of that topic or, whatever content that is relevant to that particular, audience and publication. See how all of that ties in together? And pitch tip number 5, you want to be sure to pitch effectively to the right editor. Okay? You can have the best pitch in the world, but unless you are actually pitching to the right person, it's a waste of your time. Okay? There's numerous ways to actually receive the editor's information, just FYI. But once you get that information, you want to make sure that you verify and confirm that, okay, this is indeed the person that I should be pitching to for the area that you're wanting to cover, okay, and be featured in. Because a lot of times if you pitch to the wrong person, editors are busy. They may not even get an opportunity to respond back to you to say, hey, I'm not the correct editor for, the content that you're wanting to pitch, or this isn't my lane or my area. They may not ever respond. Sometimes they will if they have the time to do so. But you have to remember, editors and writers alike are extremely busy individuals. They're always either writing or editing. That's why they're called a writer or an editor. Not trying to be funny, but being serious. That's, their job, and that's what they're doing. Now, if you're ready for more and you're an action taker, I have the perfect solution for you. If you have pitched story ideas that were rejected or ignored without a clue as to why, and sometimes it could be that you've actually pitched the wrong editor, so that's why the last tip, number 5, is very important. If you're struggling to package your genius in a way that intrigues editors and writers to say, heck yes, or if you have found yourself wasting hours searching for the perfect pitch, email you can copy, tweak, and blast out to editors and writers. And last but not least, if you find it almost impossible to get the global brand exposure that you need to serve more people with your genius. And I mean, we all have, a talent. We're all talented individuals. And so there's no reason why you yourself should not be a featured expert in your field in a top publication, a top national publication. If I can do it, you most definitely can do it. So I invite you to join my program, Pitch Perfect, which is a 6-week program where I give you my exact proven process. And with me, you'll get a step-by-step guidance on getting that yes and making your dreams of gaining global exposure a reality. Now, what you get inside this program is nothing like those publicists who charge a hefty price and never reveal their secrets, like how to increase your exposure or what other programs teach you what you should do to increase your chances of getting your story idea accepted. Now, side note, publicists and PR firms charge anywhere from $1,000 a month and up, but you still don't know how to pitch yourself. You still don't get an evergreen pitch. You don't get any of that. So once you start working with them or you no longer retain that firm, guess what? You're out there on your own. All this money you've spent, thousands of dollars over a period of time, it's just gone. So not to say that they never got you featured, because that's their job, but you cannot take anything away from that. You cannot take their expertise and actually know how to do it yourself now, right? So the website that I want to give you all is patricetartt.com, and I'm actually going through a relaunch phase on my site, so it should be up and running within the next couple of weeks. But for more information on how you can join this program, I would like for you to email me at info@patricetartt.com if you're interested. There's only a short amount of time of what I can actually give to you right now in this webinar. But I encourage you, if this is something that you feel like, it's time for me to step outside of my comfort zone and really get myself out there. I want more clients. I want more money. I want more brand exposure. Then it's time for you to do something about that. and actually start getting yourself those yeses that you deserve. And I mean, pitching is not easy. It's not. It just so happens to be a passion of mine along with writing, which is why I felt compelled to start a program for my clients, and they've been very successful. They've been able to pitch themselves. I also have a free cheat sheet on pitching that I would love for you to have. Okay, there's no charge. Again, it's free. And then I also have a free VIP Facebook group. So if you're interested in either of those two, also feel free to send me an email, and I'll be glad to get those links out to you so that you can join to get the cheat sheet and then also join my Facebook group. Here's my contact information, which I've already given, but this is just giving you another glance at it so you can write it down. And then also I'm on social media. I'm very active on Twitter and Facebook and sometimes on Periscope, but the best way to catch me on social media is either Twitter or Facebook. So feel free to stay connected to me. Also, I want to add before I go that, some people feel as though if they don't have any previous experience as being featured in a publication or an article, that they can't get their foot in the door, or that it's harder. And I mean, this may be true. It's sort of like when you first graduate from college and it's like you're trying to find that job, and they want the experience, but in order to get the experience, you have to get the job. The same thing sort of goes for pitching. They're looking for, okay, well, what have you done before? Where have you been featured before? So you can't quite leverage much when you first start out, but there's definitely ways around that. And that's one of the things that I coach my clients on how to overcome that barrier in the beginning. And then, of course, once you start getting your foot in the door here, there, and the next place, it becomes easier over time. Practice makes perfect. Like, I didn't start out writing for Success, Black Enterprise, or Huffington Post. I've been doing this for just 3 years, and I've made some huge strides, and I've done that all on my own. So I would love to, work with anyone who is coachable, who wants this for themselves, who's willing to put in the hard work, because it's going to take work. But with my proven step-by-step strategies that I give you, that I just basically hand over to you, the same things that I've used to become successful at what I do, I would be more than willing to share the information. So thank you so much for joining me. It has been an absolute pleasure. I hope that you've learned something from my top 5 tips to pitching in national publications. And if you would like more assistance, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you. And for my replay on demand viewers, if you have any questions in regards to the information covered, or you would like more information on the program, also feel free to reach out. Thank you.